Hello and thanks for joining the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. The general election is just 23 days away. How set are you for the polls? Today on the program, National Council of State okays 27,000 naira as minimum wage as NLC insists on 30,000 naira per month. Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, warns federal government over rising debt level. And later on the show, reps pass bill criminalizing estimated billing. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Utitoju and Ismail Omikbidon. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for always joining us. That ding-dong affair that negotiations for a new national minimum wage have assumed in Nigeria reached a crescendo on Tuesday. The National Council of States at its meeting in Abuja approved 27,000 naira as new minimum wage for workers at the state level and 30,000 naira for workers, federal workers. A whirlwind of reaction trailing this pronouncement is yet to subside. Organized labor is already poised for war and has rejected the move. The NLC, Congress, the Nigerian Labour Congress and its allies, like the Trade Union Congress, the ULC, warned that nothing short of that 30,000 naira agreed by the constitutionally empowered National Minimum Wage Tripartite Committee will be accepted. They called on President Muhammadu Buhari to take the next line of action and transmit a bill to that effect to the National Assembly latest today. Babajide, National Council of States yesterday, and 27,000 naira was approved for state workers and 30,000 naira for federal workers. And that 27,000 naira is with a proviso that if that will be the minimum, if you can pay 30, you can go ahead and pay 30. Now, the issue has always been with the governors, and they are members of that council. And NLC is saying that this is against what we negotiated and what was decided at the tripartite committee. Can you shed light into this?
Yeah, first and foremost, the old men at the Council of State have no power to do what they have done. They've not got the locus to do what they have done. The convention across the world is that in arriving at a minimum wage, there shall be a tripartite committee made up of representatives of workers, the government, now in this case the federal government, and then the organized private sector. So we met that criteria. What the president did to try and give governors a sense of belonging is to say, from each of the geopolitical zones, nominate a governor to represent you. Because when we talk about government, labor conventions recognize the central government. So, and that was what happened even in 2011. Even before 2011, when we had to come up with 7,500 minimum wage, it was the government at the center that stood in for the other tiers of government. So in this case, and the convention worldwide is that once that decision has been reached, the decision is a product of negotiation. Once it has been reached that social amounts should be paid, no one can go back and say he's slashing what has been agreed. No one. Because don't forget, they are acting as if this thing is simply a matter that concerns federal government and governors. But organized private sector is involved. And organized private sector has been piling pressure on government to go ahead and implement this. because they need to plan. They know that profits will decline as a result of increase in minimum wage. So they need to restructure their finances. And we are holding everybody down. What I see, I would describe what's going on as pure brinksmanship, because an agreement has been reached. The minutes NSA says is going to present documents and to the president and even to the National Assembly to show that this minimum wage, they agree sum of 30,000, nothing should happen to it. I've analyzed on this program before that ideally, what we should actually be paying as minimum wage is 43,000 naira. Because back in 2011, when we had an increase, you know, of the minimum wage from 7,500, the all-share index at that time was 110. Today is 266. At the time we came up with this new minimum, with 30,000, the all-share index was 266, which means that whatever, based on inflationary rate, you need, on the average, 43,000 naira to buy provisions that you used to buy in 2011. So if Labour has agreed that, okay, let's make it, remember these people started from like 50 and the rest coming down, you know? And if they've now agreed that, okay, 30,000 is okay, why are we going back and trying to just force their hands? The way things are going, it may eventually lead to a strike. Because you can see that even the Nigerian Union of Teachers have said, no, we are not agreeing. How many people, the politicians who are involved in this brinksmanship, how many of them can live on what they want workers to accept? Okay,
Ismail, it's very simple. Now, Jide has stated his own part of the story. And the other side to that story goes beyond, you know, signing this thing, going to the National Assembly to make it a national law. How realistic is 30,000 naira to those states?
Well, the issue of whether it is realistic or not, we must not mix it with what we are discussing now. The reason is simple. I've always said it from the one that it is not realistic for a worker in Lagos to be earning the same amount with the worker in Zamfara. However, there's a law. And once there's a law, we must obey it. The national minimum wage law is under the exclusive legislative list, which means only the federal government has power to legislate on it. In fact, yesterday in the office, when we were discussing about this story, some of my colleagues were arguing that 30,000 is minimum. I said no. That the federal government is paying 30,000 naira does not mean 30,000 is minimum. I said based on what they read to us yesterday, 27,000 naira is minimum wage. And that if 27,000 naira is minimum wage, it goes contrary to what has been agreed upon. Like Mr. Ajide said, the National Council of State is just advisory. Even constitutionally, their role is advisory. And apart from the fact that their role is advisory, by labor law, they have no power to alter what has been agreed upon. And I kept wondering, I don't know why the government keeps going back and forth over this minimum wage matter. Recall that after on the day the agreement was reached, on the day the report was submitted alongside with a draft bill to go with it.
Yes.
It was submitted alongside with a draft bill to go with it. There and then, there was a press statement from the president that no, he has not accepted, no, he has accepted. Eventually, when he was reading when the president was reading his budget in December, he said it very clearly that they are taking that into consideration, and that to that extent, he was going to set up a technical committee. Some of us even kick against that technical committee because we were like, what is the technical committee coming to do after an agreement has been reached? But eventually, when the technical committee was inaugurated January 9th, it was clear that what they needed to do was to find a way of ensuring that while implementing the new national minimum wage, it will not affect the country's development plan. So that presupposes that the president himself has accepted that 30,000 would be the minimum wage. However, we know that it's also subject to the National Assembly. But what I expected the executive to do was probably to have forwarded the bill that has already been prepared to the National Assembly. And let us face the National Assembly and let's see whether they will pass. So to set up a committee, you set up a committee, you gave the committee a 1 month.
The Bismarck Rewilding.
Yeah, the Bismarck Rewilding Committee. They have not submitted a report, and you are now coming out to read something. It shows clearly, I have said it here before, that it appears that what our government understands, not only this government, it has been a recurrent thing, is strike. Maybe by the time the Labour decide to shut down the economy, we'll do the new. But why must we wait until we go to that extreme before we do the needful?
They're shutting down the economy, Labour taking the extreme measure now. I think there's still room for negotiations.
Yes, I expect Labour to stand firm. This is unheard of. The Constitution, even what those babas and the Council of State have done, is unconstitutional because the Constitution says there shall be one minimum wage. And now they are trying to create a dichotomy. They're trying to create a dichotomy. It has never happened in our history to say, oh, federal they will pay 30, 27 for state, and that any other employer of labor who can pay above 27 can go ahead to pay. No, there shall be one minimum wage. That is what the law says. We cannot continue to trample on our laws as if the Constitution is just like toilet paper. No, it's not. It's not toilet paper. It is a useful document. It is a document that serves as a guiding light to us in our quest for progress as a nation. So the agreements have been reached. The government set up the tripartite committee. It took so long before it began to sit. And they sat for months. They worked hard day and night. They toiled. They would argue amongst themselves. They abused themselves. At the end of the day, they were able to hammer out a deal, 30,000. And the report was ready, a draft bill to go with it. Now, I hear the Minister of Labour talking about another bill based on 27,000. No, you can't do that. There was a bill that was prepared by the People Committee, ready to be presented to the National Assembly. I'm confident that the National Assembly will go ahead and implement the minimum wage. I'm confident that that is what will happen. Because we must factor in what people are going through. We've said that the governors must be prudent in the allocation and use of resources. We've said that the overall package of political office holders constitutes what I can describe as extortionist wages. I mean, extortionate wages. That's the right word. The wages that our politicians earn, in my view, is extortionate. And because it's extortionate, something must be done about it. You look at the overall package. How do we free some funds that can go into paying this thing? And let's not even forget, a lot of the governors that we thought would not be able to pay, as they were campaigning, they were announcing that they are ready to pay 30,000. Yes, Lalong, Governor Lalong of Plateau. You can't tell me that Plateau is one of the richest states in Nigeria. He inherited months of unpaid salary. He cleared those months of unpaid salary thanks to the bailout and all that. And he's saying now that he's ready to pay. He's not the only one. Most of the governors that are trying to return.
Election is coming.
Yes, but you see, let me tell you, if they are really determined, a lot of these governors can say,
okay.
Every time they are hiring,
let's pay our own bill here.
They are hiring charter flights to go to Abuja for $8,000, $10,000. It's a lot of money.
We'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this timeout. Welcome back. It's still Journalist Hangout, and we are looking at the controversy surrounding the national minimum wage in Nigeria. Ismail, when you look at it, Lagos of today, stay in Lagos and the cost of living, and what will a man do with 30,000 naira? Let's just start from that. What can it afford you? You have to transport yourself around. You have to pay your house rent.
The truth is, we have said it before that
pay your school fees, your children's school fees.
What we earn at minimum wage, even before now, is not enough to take an average worker home. Now, if we say it's not enough, if we say the 30,000 itself is not enough, you can now imagine the anger in some quarters why you want to now reduce this same 30,000 naira. The truth is that as a human being, there's no amount that can be enough. It is left for you to also plan. But the point we are making here is that
plan around
yes,
30K.
Yeah, what you have.
Wow.
You know, but you see, the point we're even making here, the point we're making here is that look, even when that 30K is not going to be enough, why make attempt to still slash it downward further? That's the point. And you see, sometimes people who know Buhari very well, because I can't claim to know him very well, they see him as a firm leader. But sometimes there are certain things he does that make me want to doubt his firmness. I say so because about 2 weeks ago, when he was setting up the Bismarck Rwanda Committee, he said that minimum wage was last reviewed in 2011. And I quote him now. He said, "It is therefore evident that a review is necessary, despite prevailing challenges." He went further to say that we are currently working on the final steps that will lead to the submission of a national minimum wage amendment bill to the National Assembly. That was what the president said about 2 weeks ago. So for the president to have said it about 2 weeks ago, that presupposes that he was already in sync, in tune with what was on ground. So to now come, because I was not at the meeting, I wouldn't know what transpired that led to, announcing 27,000 naira and federal government saying they can pay, 30,000. I just believe very strongly that Mr. President Maidas need to tell him the home truth, because we have always been talking about following law and due process. And if we must follow law and due process,
my first caller.
You should lead the way.
Ibukun is calling us from Ibadan. Thank you for joining us, IBK.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you very much. Well done. Yes,
ahead,
thank you very much. The federal government, the federal government attitude about this minimum wage is totally uncalled for, and we should do something about it immediately. Why must it be strike that will tell government what to do every now and then? Please, you people should stand with the labor and ensure that 30,000 naira is enforced. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibukun. Jide, can we afford yet another strike?
Oh yes, it's not necessary. The president is being put under pressure by these governors. Remember last week, the governors were saying that they wanted a review of the revenue allocation formula so that they can have more funds. Now, the implication of that is that what comes to the federal government from the federation account will go down. Yet,
52%.
Yet, what some people do not bear in mind is that as you fight Boko Haram, and the Air Force spends about 430 million naira on fueling its fighter jets alone. We are not yet to go to what the army spends. So, the T-72 Russian tank of the Nigerian army takes 705 liters. You understand? It's massive. It's massive. So, war is expensive. War is expensive. It's expensive. Federal government needs to spend much more money now on trying to defeat the insurgency, they need to buy weapons. Federal government, the moment the wage bill, some time ago, Kemi Adeosun told us that the wage bill of the federal government was about 152 billion a month. I can tell you that by the time you have a new minimum wage, because a new minimum wage will lead to increase in salaries of even those above, those in the senior cadre. So you could be looking at the average monthly spend on wages by the federal government going to about 250 billion a month. If it goes to 250 billion a month, it means that in 4 months, the federal government will be spending about $1 trillion on wages. So their own needs too, their own needs for funds will definitely go up. But these governors are piling pressure so that they are saying that before they can pay, then there has to be a review of the revenue allocation formula. I suspect that because it could be difficult for them and the federal government to agree on that, then we have a situation in which they say, okay, why don't we just do 27,000? Because the 27,000 is the governors, that is the states that they are talking about. The federal government still says it can pay 30. So the governors are the problem. And when you see waste in our country, at the state level you see waste, you will be really, really terrified. They are not doing, every time, a lot of these governors don't stay in their states, they are always going to Abuja. If they are not going to Abuja, they are traveling outside the country. Sometimes a governor in a whole week, he may not even do 2 days in the state. And every time they are chartering flights and all that, on the average, between $8,000 to $10,000 every time you charter an aircraft. That's a lot of money. The areas through which the resources of our country, of our states are leaking, there are just too many. And we are saying, if you address some of these areas in which resources are leaking, are being wasted, you will be able to free some funds to pay your workers. And then if you can't do that, why don't you look at your workforce? If you need to let some redundant workers go, why don't you consider that? But if you, because you think you lose an election, you don't want to do that, then you are saying that you will not pay. It's wrong.
It's my
Well, the way out is government must do everything to avoid the strike, because the strike will not do it any good. I agree that we need to cut down waste at the state level, but I also believe very strongly that even at the federal level, there are also ways to cut. The truth is that, you see, because of what some persons refer to as feeding bottle federalism that we run, it has made most of our leaders very lazy. Otherwise, there is no state in this country that has not been blessed with natural resources that we can tap from to make more money. And I still feel that rather than go back on what has been agreed upon, the federal government should have waited for the Bismarck referendum, because the terms of reference was that they should tell us how other means of generating revenue.
Okay.
It's the governors.
When we return, CBN warns federal government over rising debt level. Stay with us. Still journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this timeout. It's journalist Hangout reaching you from the station of the year. It was a great American statesman, Thomas Jefferson, who once averred that it is incumbent on every generation to pay its debts as it goes. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has raised alarm over rising debt profile of the country, which stood at $22.08 billion as at June 30th, 2018. Rising from its Monetary Policy Committee meeting, the CBN cautioned the federal government against further borrowing. Addressing journalists after the 2-day MPC meeting, the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, called for caution or the country will slide back into the pre-2005 Paris Club level. Is Nigeria in another debt burden? Gentlemen, when I hear that in the last 3.5 years, the amount that has been, this administration alone borrowed, and they've justified it severally by saying that they are investing on infrastructural development and everything, that nobody's stealing it. We can see railway, we can see this, we can see that. Yet, the fear of how this debt keeps piling up is alarming. Jide,
No.
spending, borrowing to invest in infrastructure and, you know, trying to be prudent with the little we have. This is like a very difficult call for this administration.
Yeah.
How do you manage this so that we won't be back to the pre-2005 days before Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala under Obasanjo helped mitigate that debt burden?
Yeah, you see, remember when the Monetary Policy Committee of the CBN met in the last quarter? They also warned that this generation of politicians are not saving. Yes, we had opportunities because at least oil prices went up to above 70, even got up to 80 at some point, which is an opportunity to save a little money. And they said the present generation of leaders are not saving. And that it was a problem that we had with the Jonathan administration. The Jonathan administration could in fact have saved a lot more in form of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, could in fact have saved a lot more in front of, in the shape of our strategic reserves. But it didn't happen. Some governors who are active players today in the polity are the ones who went to court to say that the Constitution says all monies coming into the
Federation account
must be shared. They went to court and got even as far as the Supreme Court. That is a story for another day. But the Monetary Policy Committee of the CBN warned that we should begin to save so that we'll have buffers when we are faced with the kind of problems that we faced in 2015. We'll have something to fall back on, you know. Now, whether they will take that advice is the answer is blowing in the wind. Now we're talking about debt, potential debt overhang. And they are warning that if we do not take action, we may go back to the pre-2005 days when we had to negotiate a debt reprieve with the Paris Club. What we have today is a situation in which from $11.28 billion in June 2015, our debt has risen to, as at June 30, 2018, had risen to $21.6 billion, which is an increase of 109%. So this is something that they are worried about. You hear people say that, oh, our debt to GDP ratio is one of the lowest in the world. In fact, I heard the VP say that. It's not something to jubilate about because you are not earning much. Your revenue is not impressive. So it is only countries that their revenue streams are impressive that can boast about the fact that their GDP, their debt to GDP ratio is low. In our own case, we are spending about 40% of our revenue to service debt. There's no way that you can justify that. It shows that we do not have an impressive revenue stream. We still rely heavily on oil. Taxation is a good option. Since Babatunde Fowler got on the scene, he's done well. Last year, 5.3 trillion. And we budgeted a little over 8 trillion. That's impressive. I am expecting that with greater aggression on his part, we should be able to hit maybe the 8 trillion mark from the FIRS. That way, what we are spending on debt servicing, at least the percentage will go down. But if anybody says that it is right for us to continue to borrow the way we are doing, because whatever you borrow, you must pay back. And creditors will be on your neck, you must pay back. It is at the point when you want to pay back that you realize that it's not such a fantastic thing to be taking loans here and there. Look at what is happening to us. We are not going to find enough funds to even execute our budget. Will be a problem if about 40% of what you earn of your revenue goes to debt servicing, and there's a potential that it could go up if we do not caution ourselves. This is what the CBN is saying, and the CBN is part of the government, is a partner in progress. So whatever the CBN says along this line, because they are experts in this area, they should be respected. Whatever they say should be taken seriously.
Fine. What do you make of this situation?
Well, for me, it's scaring. Unfortunately, Mr. Babajide was saying whether they will listen or not. The thing is, when you have a deficiency, when you have a challenge, it is until you admit that you have a challenge before you can find solution to it. But each time we say to you that, look, this is a challenge, address it, and you come out to tell us it's no challenge, it means you can never find solution to it. That is part of the problem I see with this government. Don't forget, I think about last week or so, the VP said that our debt situation was nothing to worry about.
And it's because of the debt to GDP ratio.
You understand? Now he said so. He said it's not. So when I saw the communique from the Monetary Policy Committee of the CBN, I was taken aback, because for me, that position is at variance with the VP's position. And I think we should commend the committee and commend the CBN, because, and also commend the government, because there are times such information will not be led to the public for obvious reasons, because for this type of information to be coming now, very close to election, means a lot.
The CBN is quite independent.
Yeah, it shows clearly that the CBN, is quite independent. And going further, the report, the committee also alluded to the fact that the incessant herdsmen clashes affected agriculture and livestock, production. So what it therefore means is that even though we claim to be diversifying the economy, we must do something about some of these clashes so as to safeguard that sector of the economy. Because the truth is that as long as we rely on oil as our mainstay, we'll continue to run into the kind of problem we run into. And that is why anytime there is maybe crisis about crude oil price, we start jittering, because we don't have any other thing to fall back to. That has been our mainstay. And so the high time we go away from mere rhetoric and face the reality. Because you cannot have, you can't have money and still want to borrow. Because when you borrow, it's as if you don't have. Because if you subtract whatever you are borrowing from what you have, you realize you don't have.
These governments, they are telling us that we can see what they're doing with the money. That's the justification. That in spending in infrastructure, you create employment, you spend your way out of recession, and
we say we're already out of recession. There's nothing like spending our way out of recession. We agree that we are out of recession, but our economic growth is fragile. The CBN continues to talk about that. The fundamentals are not as strong as they should be. So we have to be very careful. We have to be very, very careful. And whatever these fellows say we should do at this stage, because the people who constitute the Monetary Policy Committee, they are experts. They are experts. So whatever they say we should do, we have to look closely. Because it's clear that we can't compare ourselves to other nations of the world. America America is a big debtor nation, but it is also a country that gives out money, aid to other countries. So we can't say, oh, when you look at Japan, when you look at America, that our debt is nowhere. No. The devil is in the fact that we are not earning enough. We are not earning enough. I am not advocating that we should increase taxation across board. All I'm encouraging government to do is to increase the tax base, get as much people into the tax net as possible. If you raise taxes arbitrarily, it could backfire because more and more people will now begin to abstain from paying tax.
I feel not even raising. We've not been able to get people to pay tax.
Yes, you see, the thing is, what I'm saying is, let's get as many people into the tax net. We will earn more money if we get more people into the tax net. For example, our rich people, they don't pay tax. Generally, they don't pay tax. Now, you can increase VAT, especially on luxury items. You can increase tax. All those champagne and the rest that people pay, people drink. If someone is boasting about drinking 100,000 naira champagne, tax the champagne heavily.
Dom Perignon, you want to pay 200,000 naira.
The rich, the poor people, consumption tax, in my view, is still the best tax because the person who is poor
cannot go and
will not consume like the person who is rich. So he lives within his means. So the rich people, they should be taxed sufficiently. We will make more money. Look at Europe and America now. They tax the people. A lot of those countries, their revenue is, almost, in some cases, 80% taxation.
You can afford the private jets. You can afford yachts.
Those who can live lives of luxury.
If you have a property in Lagos, you have in Abuja, you have in Kano, you have in Kaduna, you think if you are paying tax on them, you think you will maintain them when nobody is living there?
Get them to pay every tax.
That's the truth. But if they have been heavily taxed, you just think that, oh, look, instead of keeping this one empty, honestly, you can even convert it to an hotel. Yes, and you make money. You also generate employment for people.
VAT in Nigeria, our VAT is, rate at 5% is one of the lowest in the world.
Yeah.
If we are looking for more revenue so that we don't depend too much on oil, we can increase VAT, but target those luxury goods that our people consume.
Okay, I have this caller from Abuja. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Go ahead with the contribution.
Okay. My contribution is there are two. Number one, the minimum wage issue. The minimum wage issue, if I ask you now, or Jide, say, what is the minimum wage of Nigeria today? You are likely to say it's 30,000. But technically, it is 27,000 naira per month per worker. And in other words, the president has said any state that wants to, that can pay more than that, should go ahead and do so. And the first person to say that one is the federal government. So technically, constitutionally, as if it is signed into law now, the minimum wage is 27,000, and that is against what they agreed with the labor, and that can create issues. The second point I want to make is, Jide, when everybody comments you, I commend you for your analysis and rest of them. But one thing I want to caution, a word of caution is, please, when we are discussing issues, when you are making comments on security issues, please don't be so detailed as to what our military, the strength of our military and the rest of them. You mentioned one just now that
my time is fast spent. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. See, the thing is, what he said that I'm too detailed about security information that I give here. I said the Air Force spends about 430 million on fueling their jets. It was the chief of air staff that made the announcement. It's not a product of my investigation. He announced publicly.
In fact,
and it was front page news.
That is the strength of this program.
Yes. It wasn't me.
That detail.
You see,
it is the strength. We'll give you the detail.
The man who announced it so that people will know that war is expensive. It wasn't me that went out to say.
Exactly.
Now, when I said that the T-72 armor tank consumes 705 liters of diesel, that one is a product of my investigation. Just to show that war is expensive. And I'm trying to justify the fact that federal government needs to spend money.
You can't stop us from
It's
doing
the
our
chief
job.
of air staff that said it, not me. He announced it, and if he felt it was wrong, security-wise, he wouldn't have announced it.
That's true.
Okay, another one. There's no doubting the fact that the power sector reform in Nigeria has brought some positivity, but so much is left undone. Apart from the elusive constant electricity supply, consumers continue to groan over the thorny issue of estimated billing. But the situation is about to change as the National Assembly is moving to put a stop to it. A bill seeking to prohibit and criminalize estimated billing of consumers by electricity distribution companies, your discos, has passed the third reading at the House of Representatives. Majority Leader Femi Gbajabiamila sponsored the bill in a protest against crazy bills by discos. What is now left is concurrence of the Senate. I want to say congratulations, and I want to commend this move by Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. We hardly commend them here, but when we see something that is positive, because 80% of Nigerians don't have access to that prepaid meter yet. You can say anything. People go here and there across this country looking for prepaid meter. So the discos, what they do is that they just assume this area, they'll just build a bill, and people, whether you use the light or not, they just share the bill. And Nigerians are groaning under this.
No, as a matter of fact, this morning, that was even before I knew I was going to, join the panel here. I was just discussing with my neighbor. They brought a bill of 14,000 naira. I stay in just a room and a parlor.
14,000
naira.
How? Is it a accumulated one?
No,
current
bill for 1 month. Current bill for 1 month. And
you
I was
have a
like,
transformer inside your house.
if I leave home maybe around 12 or 1, sometimes 2, I don't come back until around 10, 11 or 12. So you ask the number of, and that is not my first experience. My family in Abuja, before someone assisted us to get a prepaid meter, it was here. They will bring 25, they will bring 30, and I said, look, I'm not running a factory here. My wife runs a shop. She leaves home in the morning, the kids go to school. So it's not as if maybe there's somebody using the light from morning till night. So I want to commend the House leader for this, bold move. And I want to call on the Senate not to waste too much time, because sometimes,
the president too.
And the president too, this is a type of bill that can even cost one an election if you toy with it. I can assure you that, because most Nigerians are angry over what Gbajabiamila described as crazy bill, because the bills are crazy. Sometimes, if they are, for example, if it's area where they don't get light too often, the week they want to bring the bill, they will give you light that week.
Yes.
So that when they are coming to cut it, you will feel it.
With them.
You will feel it, and probably want to run around to pay whatever is being given to you. I think it's sad.
Babajide, I don't know, but I think it should be wrong for this disco to have these companies to have arrived at this kind of decision. Whether you have light or not, we must get to meet our revenue in certain areas. What you can just do is maybe make these prepaid meters available to Nigerians. But we don't have them.
There was a big problem at conception. The discos do not have the capacity to give prepaid meters to everyone. what government should have done, and they are doing it now, is they are giving license to companies to produce these prepaid meters. Fashola has given license to a good number of companies to produce prepaid meters. That should have been even the condition precedent before allowing a disco to begin operation. Because how do you bill the customer when you lack the capacity to provide all your customers? Look at Lagos here. Look at Ikeja Disco, for example. There's no way they can provide prepaid meters for everyone. They don't have the capacity, because they have even liquidity issues to deal with. To now go into production of millions of prepaid meters for millions of households, you know, is a mighty challenge that they were not ready for, that they lack the capacity to undertake on their own. So that should have happened from the beginning. But it is not too late. I know that if we go on at the pace that we are going on, then things will improve. More households will have prepaid meters. If you go to northern Nigeria, you see that a good number of homes, people don't have prepaid meter.
They don't?
In my house, yes. Because the capacity to produce it and provide for everyone, every electricity consumer, is not there. It will take a while before we'll be able to say we can actually give everyone prepaid meter. And that is what these guys are capitalizing on to make the sort of money that they do not deserve to make. But even when we blame them, our people too, we need to talk to our people. We have a reputation for speaking the truth. Our people too are fantastic energy thieves.
Now carry ladder.
Our people too are fantastic energy thieves. What do our people do? Even when they have prepaid meters that you are talking about,
yes,
they bypass the prepaid
so
meter
that your air condition
and use electricity for free.
Yes.
In fact, it is estimated that a lot of, probably even up to 40% of revenue that should come to discos, probably, if it's not exaggerated, does not come to them because of increasing level of energy theft. Energy theft is a big problem in our country.
It is.
We go around, you see, people will tell you, we have a way around it, because you know that when you bring an iron or you want to use a washing machine, it will consume electricity, you know. So people will tell you no, but there is a way, we found a way around it. More and more people are doing it.
Directly from the source.
Yes.
They go out from the pole.
You are stealing their electricity, but you will be among the first people to come out and say that they are doing this. Those discos are thieves. But you too, you are a thief. You are bypassing the meter.
They are cutting your lights.
Apart from meter bypass, most government agencies too don't pay for utilities.
Yes, military establishment.
Not only
Alamu is calling us from Niger State. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Alamu.
Yeah, Alamu is the name.
Keke.
I appreciate your discussion this evening.
Okay.
I want to say that I have a prepaid meter.
Yeah.
But the problem is, while I was using the former analog meter, I was billed just erratically, such that the light I didn't consume in 2016 was given to me. Now, I have the prepaid meter from 2017. In 2018, I am given 25,000 to offset from the previous carryover. And now, each time I recharge, half of the bill is what is given to me. I have complained before even this regime, but unfortunately, it's good that I have got the prepaid meter, and I'm offsetting that something gradually. But I think those of those people who have carryovers of erratic bills.
Yeah.
They should know that in future they will still be made.
You still pay for
Of
it.
course.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
We've seen a situation whereby you moved into another house. The old owners of the house were owing so much, and they will ask you to inherit.
That is another thing I hate. But sometimes you can't run it. But
Jide made a point of this energy.
no, honestly, it's a serious problem.
Theft.
It's a serious problem. And I think Nigerians, we must, I say it often that, look, each time we blame our leaders, what are we doing in our own
reflection of our leaders?
what are we doing in our own way to help change the society? And except we agree to change the society, nobody will change for us. One way to avoid energy theft is for every community to take it as a tax. If you see any NEPA 2, they call them NEPA 2. If you see any NEPA 2 man trying to tamper with, energy within your vicinity, you should be able to apprehend such a person and deal with him in your own way. Yeah, they call them NEPA 2. That's what they call them. They call them NEPA 2.
They have this.
They carry ladders. They can climb up.
No, you see,
they cut your light.
You see what some of these are people do. Once they've been disconnected because they refuse to pay, they will go and look for someone who has a bit of knowledge of electrical.
Those are the NEPA 2 people. They know they have them in every community.
Not fearing electrocution, he will now climb.
They have them in every community.
Restore.
And he charges them. It's not for free.
It's not for free.
No, it's not for free.
No, they prefer to pay those little ones
instead of
pay for electricity that they are using.
Thank you, Ismail Omikbido. Thank you for being part of this edition. Babajide Kolade Toji. Thank you too. And that's it on Journalist Hangouts. Join us tomorrow for another interesting episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangouts on our platforms showing on the screen. And we're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangouts at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozuwakun. See you tomorrow. God bless Nigeria.